Good afternoon. I'm Kenny McDuffie, at-large council member and chair of the Council's Committee on Business and Economic Development. Today's Friday, May 10th, 2024, and we're convening this meeting in person at the Wilson Building in room 500 and virtually via Zoom. The time is now 2:33 p.m. and I'm calling to order this additional meeting of the committee. For the record, I'd like to note that we have a quorum consisting of myself as well as at-large Councilmember Anita Bonds and Ward 2 Councilmember Brooke Pinto. Today, we have two measures before the committee for consideration: report and recommendations of the Committee on Business and Economic Development on the fiscal year 2025 budget for agencies under its purview, and PR 25-637, the Director of the Department of Small Local Business Development, Rosemary Suggs Evans, confirmation resolution of 2024. With respect to the report of recommendations of the Committee on Business and Economic Development on the FY 2025 budget, throughout these last several weeks, I've met with dozens of individuals, organizations, businesses, residents, and stakeholders, all unified in their desire for the council to shape a budget that would invest in public safety, education, the revitalization of our commercial corridors, and most importantly, invest in our people. This budget is the most challenging one since I've been on the council. The economic growth we'd all grown accustomed to has stagnated a bit, and in some instances is being outpaced by inflation and other escalating costs. Simply put, our expenses are growing faster than our revenues. The spending realities we face inform our fiscal decisions over these next crucial years as we work to restore our economic growth and attend to the needs of our diverse constituencies. Our need for a robust downtown, a clean and safe city, and meaningful investments in violence interruption, infrastructure, small business, workforce development, affordable housing, education, and so many areas all have merit. We know several sacrifices have already been made in this budget cycle. And while sacrifice can be a noble exercise, we must ensure that these efforts help us serve the greater good of our city and of our people. The enhancements we've made through this committee's budget report will help us to realize the goals we've created for a more racially equitable, more socially just, and more economically inclusive city. We funded a pathway to raise the clean hands threshold, and for those who are familiar with clean hands law, in some instances, it's prevented too many residents from pursuing opportunities and others from starting businesses. So we've funded a pathway to raise that clean hands threshold so that our residents can obtain occupational licenses or start businesses that will help them to eradicate their debts and create wealth building opportunities. We've restored funding to the Medical Cannabis Social Equity Fund so that those disproportionately harmed by cannabis criminalization are included in DC's lawful medical cannabis industry. We funded the creation of a commission on reparations to research and develop reparations proposals for African Americans wronged and traumatized by the ills of slavery, Jim Crow, and structural and institutional racism. We've added a combined $3 million of recurring funding to our home purchase assistance program, as well as our employer-assisted housing program, focused on first responders to help defray the cost of home ownership in the city. The committee added almost $1.2 million for youth and athletic programming through Events DC and the DC State Athletic Association. The committee added $1 million to enhance our Main Streets programs across the city, $272,000 to increase the pay for our clean teams and all the people who are helping and working exceptionally hard to keep our commercial corridors gleaming. We've added funds to assist with the completion of the build-out and renovation of the DC Center for the LGBTQ community's new building in the city's Shaw neighborhood. I appreciate that there are also funds being sent by Councilmember Nadeau to help with that project. The committee enhanced support for the Access to Justice initiatives with an additional $500,000. We enhanced support to domestic violence victims services with an additional $500,000. The committee added $242,000 in funding for Safe Shores to provide services and support to children affected by abuse and neglect. We added $300,000 to support the work of addressing problem gambling in the District of Columbia. We funded tax abatements for UNCF's national headquarters and the historic Kappa House, both organizations doing very vital work to create opportunities for young people here in the district and across the country. Over $5 million in funding to develop and improve sports and recreation opportunities in wards 5, 6, 7, and 8. I also want to thank my colleagues, again, Councilmember Nadeau, Councilmembers Allen, Pinto, were members of this committee, as well as Councilmember Lewis George, who all sent funds to this committee for economic development investments in their respective wards. When you couple these investments with the subtitles of the associated agencies and the business and economic development cluster, you see our approach to investing in our people, our downtown, and our neighborhood corridors, and in developing pathways for small businesses to grow so that they can hire more of our residents and continue to play a role in the economic development landscape of our city. The next few years will continue to be economically challenging for the district, but we must not lose sight of pursuing approaches that serve our collective goals of economic resurgence in our neighborhoods, as well as economic vitality in our downtown. I look forward to working collaboratively with my colleagues and the executive and meeting this challenge so that our residents from across all 8 wards will benefit in our city's economic recovery. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Pinto.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Chairman McDuffie, and thank you to you and your entire team for this budget and for this excellent committee report. I am very excited to see that this budget makes key investments to support the vibrancy and revitalization of our downtown and the growth and success of our small businesses, especially in the difficult climate of this budget year. Downtown, as we know, is the economic engine of our city, and we rely on its tax revenue to fund all of our other goals across the district, from public education to public safety to affordable housing. And so it is really essential that we invest in the short-term stabilization and the long-term vibrancy of our downtown core to drive district-wide growth. Last year, we funded the core pillars of my bill, the Recovery Act, which provides the blueprint for a comprehensive economic recovery for our central business district. The Recovery Act focuses on targeted investments in our downtown through conversions of office to housing and other uses to support resilient mixed-use neighborhoods, grants for brick and mortar establishments, and safety investments. This budget continues our important work to convert vacant and underutilized office buildings to housing with set-asides for affordable housing units, so that people who work downtown can also afford to live downtown. This budget also supports conversions to other mixed use that are more productive than a building sitting vacant, including retail, hospitality, entertainment, important needs for hotels that are really key to making downtown attractive to new residents and visitors, and that create sustainable economic opportunities over the long term. This budget continues our efforts to fill retail vacancies through a $2.5 million investment in the Retail Recovery Grants Program, which helps develop and strengthen new and growing businesses, and also activates previously vacant retail and commercial spaces. The budget supports downtown sub-area planning initiatives for Penn West and Golden Triangle to bring the downtown action and public realm plans to life, and to cultivate economically resilient mixed-use neighborhoods. In the 2023 budget, I funded a feasibility study to explore the potential for a Main Street program in the Foggy Bottom West End area that we worked on together. This study, finalized last fall, recommended the creation of a new Main Street to help support and attract small and local businesses in the neighborhood. And so following this recommendation, I was thrilled to contribute $650,000 across the financial plan to this committee to establish a new Foggy Bottom West End Main Street, which will be really transformational in these neighborhoods. I'm also glad that this committee invests $1 million to support all of our Main Street programs and provides a very well-deserved pay increase for our clean teams, which are essential to keeping our commercial corridors clean and vibrant across the district. I echo the committee's call for collaboration to improve access to government contracts for our exceptional small, local, minority, and women-owned businesses, which are very valuable to our entire economy and city. Finally, I appreciate this committee's transfers that you sent to the Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety to support access to justice and support our domestic violence survivors. So thank you very much again, Chairman McDuffie, for you and your team's efforts, and I look forward to voting in favor of this budget today.
Thank you, Councilmember Pinto. I should also note that we're also joined by Ward 6 Councilmember Charles Allen. I'm going to turn next for comments to Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and nothing but accolades for this very robust report. Thank you and to your team for thinking not just about the economic recovery track that our city is engaged on, but also about the people and the people in some of the places that we sometimes forget, like the clean teams. I think you've made a very robust investment there, and thank you very much for that. I also wanted to thank you for the dollars towards housing access. I think that's very important when we say we can't have a community of just buildings and economic projects without having the people in community. And you did that through continuing the funding for vital programs like the HPAP and for our, as you call it, our law enforcement in particular, making sure that those who are going to serve will have an opportunity to also live within our community. So thank you very much for that. Just accolades for your attention to an area that we sometimes don't talk a lot about, and that is our young people in sports and keeping them engaged. So I wanted to thank you for that as well. And so I'll conclude by thanking you again for paying attention to how we spend this money. Your committee has some of the largest budgets in our government. And I think you managed to carve out a little bit here and there that would make a difference. And I say the largest budget because you have a chief financial officer in your committee. And that's where we have all of the dollars vested. So thank you for being creative and making use of these dollars so that everyone in the city, all of our residents and our businesses and institutions can feel that they are a part of our budget process. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Bonds. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Chair McDuffie. First, want to thank you and your staff for all the hard work that goes into it. I know that all of our staffs have been working overdrive for the last several weeks. And so just kudos to you and to your whole team for the hard work that went into that. This has been a difficult budget for all of our committees, and I think all of us are faced with cuts that we don't support, challenges that we're trying to meet, and trying to kind of strike that balance as best as we possibly can. And I think, especially when I think about programs that you've championed on the council, like baby bonds and other things like that, trying to find the right balance has been difficult. I think that we have been able to, in your committee, restore some of those cuts. But obviously, I think as we move to the full council, there's still a lot more to do. I did want to highlight a couple of elements in particular. I wanted to thank the committee's focus. Increasing the clean hands debt, I think is really important. And a lot of folks may not fully get it, but I think it's going to make a really big, meaningful difference for a lot of local businesses. I know I hear from my small and local businesses in Ward 6 when it comes to renewing their licenses, how frustrating the process is just to get their clean hands certificate. And just to level set for the public a little bit, people who owe as little as $100 for everything from parking tickets to water bills are denied the opportunity to conduct business. It's a huge barrier to entry. I think it stifles a lot of potential business opportunities and entrepreneurs, which in many cases at that low dollar amount really represent perhaps even just honest mistakes or misses. And so I think raising it makes a whole lot of sense. I think that we obviously want people to pay what they're owed to the district. But when we're talking about what is a fairly de minimis amount, we don't want that to be the barrier to a business. So I think this really level sets and creates just a better baseline of where we expect the door that we want to open for that small business. So thank you for doing that. I think we also, obviously, it has been echoed by a few of my colleagues already, increasing the pay for our clean teams. It feels like the council kind of has to lead on this year after year. But I think it's incredibly important when we think about not just the jobs that it creates, but frequently on our clean teams, I know many of the clean teams in Ward 6, it's individuals that are returning citizens, folks that have had other barriers to employment, and this creates a very good, stable job that becomes a career and helps stabilize their family, their children, their grandchildren. And I think, again, it's something I'm proud this council kind of keeps having to go back. I wish we didn't have to, but I'm proud that we're the ones that keep going back to put the money in. I want to note with a little bit of a Ward 6 hat on, glad to see the $1.25 million headed for King Greenleaf Rec Center's fields. I appreciate you identifying that in Ward 6. The rec there is a hub and a center for the community in Southwest, but it also has a myriad of challenges. I think being able to invest in that space really says something to the community. It says something to the kids and to the families there to have a quality field for the sports and activities there. So I really appreciate that. Also want to thank you for accepting a couple of the transfers that we made. So first off is the recurring $350,000 enhancement for a grant to a nonprofit that's going to help advocate, connect and promote Capitol Hill businesses along Main Street corridors in Ward 6. A lot of the conversations this year, appropriately so, have been about downtown. And I want to be clear, downtown needs investment, significant investment. But I know I'm not alone in hearing from a lot of our local businesses that said, what about us too? We need to see a little bit more investment on their neighborhood and on those small commercial corridors that are keeping their doors open, hustling just as much as everybody else. And I think really are a big, vibrant part of our community. So I was glad to help find some of those funds and appreciate the partnership so that they can be deployed out in the right way. And I think this grant's going to, in particular, focus on incentivizing business opportunities on the 8th Street Northeast corridor, for example. I also want to take a second and commend you for the $1 million transfer to the Committee on Housing to provide the additional funding for the EHAP program, specifically those for our first responders. I know Councilor Robert White incorporated legislation I introduced previously to have our 911 and 311 call takers be considered eligible as first responder benefits. We're facing huge staffing shortages and have been at our call center. The number of times people are put on hold or can't even get through is, I think, a big problem. And I think that helping make sure we recognize the valuable employees that are there and help recruit and retain more, I think is important. And that can be one way to do this. So Chair McDuffie, to you and your staff, I want to thank you for the hard work that went into this, for the investments that we're making, and excited to be able to support the report and recommendations today.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. I think there's any further discussion. Before I move to committee report, I do want to note, I forgot to mention thanking those committees that accepted funds that we transferred out from the committee. I also want to note thanks to Councilmember Tryon White accepting some capital funds that we sent from this committee to the Committee on Recs for several fields. Councilmember Allen mentioned the King Greenleaf field in Ward 6. We also sent $1.25 million to the Harry Thomas Rec field in Ward 5, specifically the field. And we also sent $1.25 million to Benning Stoddard Field in Ward 7 as well. We sent funding to the Recs Committee and $300,000 for the Watts Playground basketball court improvements. We also sent over $208,000 for the Marvin Gaye Park additional sports fields development in Ward 7, as well as over $208,000 for Fort Stanton Recreation Center additional sports field development in Ward 8. And finally, an additional $10,000 for the Goodman Playground bleachers in Ward 8. And so we really appreciate support for that. And working with Councilmember Trayon White to receive those dollars, and a number of people who I'm about to name who made all of this happen here in the committee with this report. It's a very busy time, as has been noted by my colleagues for the council. Each year brings its own set of unique challenges. I think these challenges have been both more unique for me in my tenure at the council, but also for our overall city in terms of the fiscal restraints that we're experiencing. The committee would not have been able to accomplish all that it has this cycle without several individuals, including Jen Budoff, Ann Phelps, Sam Hodges, Joe Wolf from the Office of the Budget Director. So thank you. Kay Westcott and the other important folks at the Office of the General Counsel, I want to thank you. I also want to thank Deborah Fries and Kate Bloniarts from the Office of Revenue Analysis within the Office of the Chief Financial Officer. And of course, my staff who worked tirelessly this season. I want to thank all the support staff for all their help throughout all these hearings that we've had, allowing residents to testify both in person and virtually. We really appreciate all that you all have been able to do for this committee. Again, my staff, including my Chief of Staff, Darren Parks, Committee Director Justin Kim, Legislative Director Donnie Crawford, Policy Advisor Daniel Segura, and Senior Advisor Jose Sousa, as well as my Deputy Chief, Jonathan McNair, and all my staff who've contributed to this report. One final note, if I could, to mention two quick edits on page, I think, 31. In the transfer table, DSLBD Tacoma transfer should be $46,750. And on page 58, Washington Convention Center and Sports Authority, there's a reference to a grant for $550,000. That grant should be for statehood education, and the amount should be $500,000. So I wanted to make those quick notes. With that, I move the committee report with leave for staff to make technical, editorial, and conforming changes. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously with the members present and voting. The next quick item on the agenda is PR 25-637, the Director of the Department of Small Local Business Development, Rosemary Suggs Evans, confirmation resolution of 2024. This resolution was introduced on February 12, 2024 by Chairman Mendelson at the request of the mayor and referred to the committee on February 16th of this year. The Committee on Business and Economic Development held a public roundtable on this proposed resolution on April 10th, 2024. This proposed resolution would confirm the appointment of Rosemary Suggs Evans as the Director of the Department of Small and Local Business Development to serve at the pleasure of the mayor. Ms. Suggs Evans has served as the interim director of DSLBD since last year and previously served as the Deputy Director and as Chief of Staff of the agency before becoming interim director. She's been an advocate for DC small businesses and local retail businesses throughout the entire city. Before her time with DSLBD, she served the district in the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Greater Economic Opportunity and as a Certified Business Compliance Officer for the Department of General Services. Ms. Suggs Evans received her Bachelor of Science degree from Howard University in Business Administration. She is a resident of Ward 4. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I move the committee print and report with leave for staff to make technical, editorial, and conforming changes. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. With that, this concludes the business of the committee. The time is now 2:57 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.